So tell me when we find out they see us.
Yeah.
And they're all on.
It's on the air live. All right. You guys in Shawnee at Midwest City, hang on. How do I look? Okay. We're starting the broadcast. We've got TJ here. Danny's here. We're going to talk about profit share. I'm going to get them in the screen as best I can, but I want you to listen. Listen as much as you watch.
Okay,
Here's the other thing. Oh, we got Christy with a message. Get in here, Christy.
Okay, so
there she is.
With your questions, sorry, we're so excited to be able to do this, and we're going to get better at this all the time. But with your questions, I want y'all to text me if you have some. 405-209-8483. 405-209-8483. So as we're going along, if you want to text me questions, we'll ask them. And if you have any other questions, okay, so everybody, I'm so glad you're here. This is one of the things that our recruiting committee is trying to do this year is to help everybody grow their profit share. And I think people don't catch on. You know, I've been here, I shouldn't even say because it's embarrassing that I haven't caught on. I have like, I think 15 or 20 under me. But 25 years, I should have thousands or hundreds, you know. But I didn't make it a thing. My thing's always to go out there and sell houses and buy houses, and not buy, but buyers and sellers. So these two guys have really caught the vision early. So I'll let each of them just kind of tell a little bit about how long they've been and just kind of go for that. All right? Okay, we'll let you go. All right.
All right. Just introduce you guys yourselves, if you would, TJ, and you guys can just take it from there. And everybody ready? Yeah. You're being recorded too, by the way. This little microphone right here. Well, you choose your words. That's what I understand. And so, anyway, take it away, gentlemen.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me out, and Danny. It's cool to be down here at Green Meadows. Don actually was my Ignite teacher 2 years and about 8 months ago. And why that's important is because 3 years you're vested in profit share. So I'm 3 months away from being vested. And it seemed like it was going to be forever when I was sitting in that Ignite class. And here we are. So real quick, a little bit about me, and then I'll let Danny introduce himself. I'm up at Keller Williams Central, Oklahoma. I'm coming up on 3 years. I did 20 years in the Air Force. And that kind of segues into why profit share is important to me, because I am retired with a pension. So I have some passive income, and I love that passive income. And that passive income gives me a good life. That passive income makes me less pressure to sell houses, which I attribute to a lot of my success in real estate. So when this profit share thing popped up and was introduced to me, I was like, oh, another retirement. That's important to me. It's important to my legacy. It's important to my family. So that's kind of why I'm interested in profit share.
Very similar story. I retired from the Air Force after 20 years and 10 days because I count 10 days. It's all important to me. I started out in Louisiana with Keller Williams Red River as a stand-up office. It was part of my transition plan out of service to get my license and be there during a period of time and try to grow up stand-up office. And then I transitioned myself here to Keller Williams Elite. I'm in Yukon. And I absolutely love the model. I really believe, only 30% or so of agents understand profit share in Keller Williams nationally. I believe if you're looking at Keller Williams compared to other companies, you're missing 50% of this business model if you're only focusing on realtor jobs, and that's real estate and buying and sell real estate. The other part of Keller Williams that makes it extremely valuable and really makes it stand out is the profit share model. And so TJ and I talked about this. You've got to understand the model and be an expert at it.
So Danny's in my downline, and I'm going to brag on him here a little bit or a lot. What Danny did was when he was getting out of the Air Force, he had a vision, right? He knew he was going to move back to Yukon. So he got his license in Louisiana. And although part of his focus, I would probably say maybe 30-40% of his focus was learning the business and selling houses. The other 70 to 60% was, like he said, selflessly building that market center down there, but also realizing that he was building his downline. So he spent a lot of time with his business recruiting because he understood that that wasn't going to be his sphere down there when he got into selling houses. So I can either build my downline or I can start a business down here that I'm going to have to transition to Oklahoma anyway, right? So he had that vision to realize I'm going to build my downline here. Now I'm going to show you real quick here, kind of twofold. One, how to find your profit share tree on the intranet in case you don't know. And then I'm going to show you our downline and show you what Danny's done in 2 years. So how many people in here do not know how to find their profit share tree? Okay, so we've got a few, so it'll be worth our while. So this is my intranet, all right? So what you can do is you can go to reports. Oh, this is much faster than my internet in the country. So you go to reports here and you go down to profit share, okay? And there's a bunch of different ones. I'm gonna go to this one. So the 7-level lookup, you can just bring up your tree, but I'm gonna show you how you can see what you're making.
This is normal, by the way.
What's that?
The turning.
The turning? I don't have any good jokes, so I have Alexa. But, so you can kind of see here, you can look at your downline at each level, how it's growing or not. So as you scroll over, you can kind of see how much you're making. So last year I made $28.49. You know what's cool about that? They paid for my royalties, right? So I didn't pay Keller Williams International a dime. So they paid me back. I think that's kind of cool.
Okay, I missed your very first step from your.
Go to reports.
Reports.
Under your picture.
Got it, thanks.
Okay.
This is Candy, by the way. She'll do this occasionally.
Good. I like it because that means I'm going too fast for everyone else. She's the only one that speaks up. So I appreciate that.
That's good, because she won't ask me this again.
I love that. Yeah. So what I'll show you here is you can view your 7-level downline.
Which, by the way, that was one of my recruits to your market center who just walked in with a big deal.
Is that right?
Lisa Devali. She's in class right now working on it. And I absolutely love your team leader. Vicki is just phenomenal. Her heart, you can just tell when you talk to her. You guys have a phenomenal office.
All right. So I'll show you this here in a second. Before we do this, Danny brought up a good point. Let's get questions from you guys that you want answered before we get into our downline. So is there anything, so the first question I had from Marilyn is, how do you make money doing profit share? And we can cover that here in a little bit. Is there any other questions specific?
For people who, man, I'm proving it right.
Don't worry.
I can't help it, it's just who I am.
Me too. Hey, I feel you. This is me too.
For out-of-state people, like I have one right now that I have an interview set up with an office in San Antonio, but I went through, my sponsor has to be in Texas, happened to be in Texas, but like, so what's the easiest way for me to, like if I have another friend that I'm talking to in Mississippi, where do I go to find,
Can I answer that?
how do you know it's a good office, and how do I point them in the direction?
I can answer the first question.
Good
If they profit share consistently, that's a good office.
If they, so how do I find that? Where do I see that
They can answer
information?
that part.
Okay,
So when we get to your question, sorry, I'll answer that one.
Okay.
okay.
Are we gonna answer those questions or write it down?
Well,
We'll just write it. We'll write
however
it
you
down.
want to do it, TJ.
Yeah, just we'll write them down and we'll get back to that. We'll make sure we answer.
Anybody else have a question that they want answered from this?
Is this your down?
Yes, I am.
It is, yeah, we'll cover
I'm in
this.
this down
I
line.
know Julio, he's wonderful.
And he's crushing it. He's doing very
Oh, I
well.
know,
Yeah.
I know.
Does anybody else have a question?
Not yet. You want to tell my number is 405-209-8483.
So,
Okay,
yeah, so that's, if you guys have any questions, Midwest City or
Shawnee.
Shawnee, you want to write that one question? Okay, so pop up with other questions as we go along, and we'll make sure we answer your guys' question before we leave here. So real quick, this is kind of my downline, and I'll kind of, what I'm going to talk about is the why, or the how, I guess, I built this. And I'm going to show you what Danny's done. So the first two, Denise and Matthew, I built, so I was military. So my whole first line is military, has a military relation. So Matthew was my first one. He's here at Green Meadows. Matthew has capped every year. So my wife calls him our workhorse. So she loves Matthew. And so he basically just reached out to me, saw my presence on Facebook. And I'll tell you, I think that's a huge part of of profit share is making sure your friends know you're in the real estate business. Because everyone out there, not everyone, but there's a lot of people that want to do this. They don't know who to talk to, and they want to talk to somebody that they trust, right? So make sure that it's known to your community, your sphere out there, that you do this, because that's kind of how this all started. So Matthew was my first one, and I'm going to take a second with Matthew here and talk about mentorship. Matthew and I talk probably 3 times, 4 times a week. All right. So by the bylaws, by the P&G, what is that? P&G, something guidance, program and guidance. The Keller Williams bylaws. Nurture. What?
Program nurture guidance.
Yeah. It's basically the bylaws of what how Keller Williams runs. The sponsor is not required to mentor the sponsor or the recruit. Okay. Now I'll tell you, it's my opinion that the more you mentor somebody that's new, now of course they have their coaches, but it's in your best interest to make sure that their business picks up and gets off the ground. So Matthew and I, for the first 3 months, 3 times a week, we would role play, okay, to make sure he got up and running. Now I will give a caveat to this, and your question is great, and I love that you're looking not just in Oklahoma, not just in Green Meadows, but you're looking in other
I'm military
states.
as well, so that's
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay, that's what, yes. So our lead profit share earner up in Edmond, 125,000 last year, the Nebius team, has recruits in 21 states. Okay, so that's important. But getting back to Matthew, so I did a little bit of mentorship with him. The thing you have to be careful about is when you mentor in other states, you don't know the state law there, right? So for instance, if somebody was mentoring me and they were outside of Oklahoma and they said, hey, you need to have this Facebook contest, it's awesome, right? Just put on there that you'll give away a gift card to anyone that likes your page. Guess what? That's illegal. So you have to be very careful when you're mentoring your recruits out of state, okay? But in state, I think it's very important to help them build their business, okay? So,
TJ,
yes.
do you talk to your second, not your first level, but your second level? Do you talk to them 3 to 4 days a week too?
I don't.
Okay.
Should I? Yes.
Oh, you should.
I think I should. Do you, Danny?
You talk to me. I talk to you a lot, man.
Yeah.
And I'm way down in your line.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I guess I do. I guess I don't consider you that far down because we're close, but yeah, I do talk to Danny quite a bit. Denise. So Denise was a military spouse. Again, her husband knew I was in the business. And what I'll tell you about Denise, this is the buyer specialist. So one thing you have to be careful of, and it's just something I think Keller Williams has to work around, and it's something I'm actually trying to get up to the IALC. Okay, Denise was an agent for about a year. Talked, and we thought maybe it would be in her best interest to be a buyer specialist. Okay, because that's the part of the business she really liked. She wanted to get more business, and we said, well, maybe you should be a buyer specialist. So she's down at Mullinex. Come to find out, when you join a team at certain market centers, the team pays the whole cap. So the buyer specialist doesn't pay into company dollar. Well, if your recruit doesn't pay into company dollar, and I'll explain this in a second, then you don't get profit share. So basically, I lost my profit share with Denise. I'm not bitter about it. It's part of the process. It's part of how Keller Williams is set up. However, I'm going to be a squeaky wheel, and I'm going to see if we can get it fixed. And I've already talked to Stephanie Chapman down there, the team lead, and she is phenomenal. But just realize that could happen to you. You could recruit somebody in, they go to a team, and you lose your profit share or it's reduced. Okay, it happens. But it was the right thing for Denise. It was the right thing for that team. They've got a great agent. So big picture for Keller Williams. It was great. So here's Danny down here underneath Matthew, in the business for 2 years. Look at that. I can't even fit it on the screen. So I'm so proud of this guy. This is what he's done, and this is why I'm going to be quiet here in a second and let him talk, because he does a phenomenal job with this. Matthew Webb's out in North Carolina, again, just off of Facebook. Mimo Youssef, I recruited from a military recruit fair. Okay, So what's your one thing? Everyone has a one thing, correct? My one thing is obviously my military sphere. So Danny and I've gone to 2, Danny's gone to 2 now. They have a DAV military recruit fair downtown. And we pay the money, and it's worth the money because Mimo has made me much more than the $250 I paid to go to that military recruit fair in profit share. All right, so it was worth the money to me. Great investment. I actually recruited another military guy who went to Churchill Brown. That stung a little bit, and he was just their rookie of the year. So lost out a little bit there. You win some, you lose some, but I'm glad to see him doing very well. And then Rob Reed was another one off of Facebook, a military recruit. 2 others that I'll talk about real quick, and then I'm going to hand it over to Danny. I've got one that just passed her test, and she was a client. Guys, clients are one of the richest targets for profit share. They came here from the Netherlands, and he was going to work at Boeing. She didn't have a job, and I would see her all the time. You know, you follow them on the MLS when you set them up on a search. I would see her on there constantly, and I'm like, she likes to look at houses. So we're driving around, and I said, Terry, you like to look at houses, don't you? She said, yeah, I love to look at houses. Have you ever thought of doing real estate? Yeah, I've definitely thought about that. And we had the discussion. She just passed her test, and she's signing today, actually, as we speak, up in Edmond. The other piece is, even if your clients aren't interested in real estate, so this is my next recruit who's about to take the test. He's taking the class. I had a client, and I explained profit share to him. The military client, I said, hey, Keller Williams, great company, #1 in training, talked about all the benefits. And I said, and they have kind of a retirement plan. And this is what it is, and I explained profit share. A year and a half later, I get a call from him. Hey, I've got a buddy of mine that I go to church with, and he's getting his real estate license. He signed up for class. Do you think you could talk to him about Keller Williams? Yeah, it was about 30 seconds, and I was on the phone with Paul, and he's getting ready to take his test. So bottom line with all of this, and I think is top of mind, profit share has to be top of mind. I don't think enough agents keep it top of mind in their business. We're worried about getting the listing, getting the sale, and I'll let Danny talk to this in a second. A good question for you guys to ask him is, would you take a listing or would you take a recruit? Okay, and I think he's going to talk about that in a second. So. You want to talk to yours, Danny?
Absolutely. So everybody's here to learn something about profit share, which is a phenomenally small amount of Keller Williams agents. And it amazes me that you join Keller Williams. There's so many agents who join Keller Williams, but they don't look at, you've got 2 businesses you're running. And this is my perspective. You have your realtor business, and then you have your retirement business. So you're making today's money selling houses, right? You're growing your real estate business, but there's no retirement plan out of that. The most important, to me, the biggest reason why you're making today's money is to take care of your family. Well, if you're really taking care of your family, how are you planning for your retirement? You can do that as a self-employed IRA. There's a whole bunch of things. You can buy real estate and everything else. But Keller Williams has this model built for you. You don't have to make any adjustments to it all. TJ is phenomenal way he did it, of staying involved in people's lives. And I believe in that same personality. Keller Williams, when you recruit into offices, the model really is to hand them to the team lead and let them go. I enjoy pouring into people's lives. And Keller Williams, I understand the statistic is they accept about a 30% attrition a year out of your market center. For my downline, that's completely unacceptable. If I am going to spend the time pouring into somebody's lives, I want them to make it a full career. I want them to be successful. So my pouring into their lives is so that I do not have a 30% attrition. I want them to do it for long term. So I don't accept that with the way I approach my business, that part of my real estate business. And you'll have to choose how you approach on yours. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good.
For those of you here, you'll want to learn about it. That's the first step. I really believe in doing this. You have to be an expert in Keller Williams and why it provides value and the differences between Keller Williams and all the other companies. And if you're not an expert at it, how do you speak about it? And if you want to think you're an expert, please test me on it. I will sit down and have lunch with any of you at any time, and we can talk about Keller Williams and the pluses and minuses. I've spent an inordinate amount of time studying this and looking into it, so I can understand the differences. It matters to me. I encourage you to go back and read the Stanford University's study on culture. And you'll see that's an independent school that wrote about Keller Williams culture. I believe when I read it myself, just being objective, that this one part is they didn't cover it from Keller Williams financially incentivized cooperation. So when everybody cooperates in a market center, the market center is profitable and everybody's profitable because you get profit share. And so we have an environment that attracts people who want to cooperate with each other, because when we win, we all win, which is straight win-win, right? And so if you have a true win-win personality pouring into people's lives, this is straight Keller Williams culture, and I believe in it. I really do. This is just natural to TJ and I, because we came from the military, which we were counting on the other people around us all the time. And so for Keller Williams, is a very natural fit to a lot of military people, because you're leaving something you've known for 20 years and stepping into something else. And that win-win and integrity and commitment and communication, and those are almost like our core values, just that's been beat into us for 20 years. So when you get in and you learn it yourself, you're able to communicate and speak about it. And if you can't speak about it, you have to determine success for yourself and how much energy you put into this part of your business. And I can't do that for you, but you'll have to balance that out. And so that's my philosophy and part of my looking at this. And I can speak on this for hours, by the way. I can do a full 8-hour day.
I love it. It's your one thing.
So can I piggyback off of what Danny's saying? Because we're talking a lot about new agents, okay? But the biggest bang for your buck is an existing agent on a cross sale, right? Because a new agent, there's some ramp up time. An existing agent, they already have their business going. They just need to understand how Keller Williams can help them generate more business with the training we have, the systems and models. So the reason I thought of this is I've only had one agent, this is sad, that I've done a cross sale with that I thought was worth recruiting. And I hate to say that, and I have so much pride in Keller Williams that I really do think it's important, okay? Other than Christy Hawkins, but she's already with Keller Williams. We're having our first cross sale right now, and it's going great, I think, anyway. Right? Okay, all right. So this agent, I did a sale with her and we've kept in touch. And the biggest thing I think we have to offer is training, right? #1 training company in the world across all industries, 3 out of the 4 last years. That's an important stat to be telling people. Don't keep that a secret. Tell anyone you can that that's the case. So who went to Charge this year? Okay, Charge, pretty good event, pretty good training event. Next year it's gonna be better because I'm on the Charge committee, so come next year. But I invited this agent and her partner to Charge, her business partner to Charge, because I wanted to show the Keller Williams training. The funny thing was, we didn't get halfway through the first session and she starts recruiting me to a company X, I'll say it. And I was like, this isn't working out like I thought it would, but it was great. And because what Danny said is, you need to understand Keller Williams, but you also need to understand the other models out there. So I listened intently, right? And I listened, and then this company has a 50-50 split. So I started writing down on the paper what my GCI was last year, which is pretty decent. And I took 50% of that, which is 120,000, and I said, this is what I would give to your broker. You know, really, 120,000? You want me to give 120,000 to your broker? Let's take a look at the numbers. And so I'm having lunch with her on Monday to sit down and look at numbers a little more intently. But outside of that, she had a great day. We went to all the events in Charge. She understood the Keller Williams culture. She understood the training and how important that is. So we're going to talk to her, and she's talked to my team lead already. On top of that, since she was recruiting me, she set up an appointment with her team leader, actually her broker. And I fully took advantage of that and sat down for 1 hour and 45 minutes. Why? Because I want to learn about that company, right? I want to learn what they have to offer to their agents. And I think that's important, like Danny said.
I do the same thing. I treat other agents to lunch all the time and let them recruit me. I love it. I like hearing what they're offering. By the way, I think competition for agents is a good thing because it makes you and your expertise more valuable. Everybody needs to step up their game and keep talent. And so I am a fan of competition. I'm sorry, is that a question?
Well, you guys are going out to lunch and talking numbers with these people, and we're kind of trying to like give them to the team leader, give them to the team leader, right?
Mhm.
So at what point do you come back in? And how well do you need to know those numbers?
I'm working hand in hand with Nathan on this agent. So I met with them initially. I brought him to training. And then I set up an appointment with Nathan. Nathan had the appointment and he worked on the numbers and he worked up, basically, he kind of laid out the same numbers I did, but then showed them where their numbers could be with Keller Williams systems, models, and training. And they said, thank you very much. And then we reached back out again, and now I'm having a follow-up lunch with them. So, and it takes time with agents, and I forget her name. She's the leading, you guys know, the leading profit share earner here at Keller Williams. She had a
McKissick?
McKissick, Linda McKissick.
Okay, so Preston McKissick is my sponsor, her son.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I had no idea who I was getting in with. Yeah.
You've done well, yeah.
But yeah,
So profit share should be a little bit of your focus then, I
Yeah, you
think.
should know that deal.
Yeah.
yeah, Preston is
Right.
honing in on me.
Yeah. So she had a CGI call not too long ago that I went to. And CGI calls, guys, if you can invite another agent to a CGI call, another great training event to bring them to. It's 30 minutes out of their schedule. Bring them on in and have them sit through one of those. But Linda said something that hit home to me. Her longest recruit was 12 years. And all she did was, she said she never says Keller Williams, right? She just listens and she tries to help this person build their business and show the value. And it took 12 years. So with existing agents, kind of to your point is, Nathan and I'm sure will continue to have appointments with this agent and her partner until they see the value in. Does that answer your question?
So when to the team lead is what I heard
Yeah.
for anybody.
So typically,
My why part of this is leaving is that I enjoy knowing people and having long-term friendships and relationships. And I'm gonna do this for 20 years here. I'm retired here. I'm not moving. So I hope to know everybody for 20 years. You run across my name and you say, Danny's honest with me, he's gonna be good and professional. So everybody I deal with, I'm hoping at some point I become great friends with them. And so when I'm helping somebody join Keller Williams, I really want to be part of their lives. And I am tracking them as part of, I want to be their friend up through the whole process. When do I hand somebody to a team lead? It depends on where they're at. If they're just asking me questions, if I want to take them to a career night for that person, because I think that's right for them, I go to the career night with them if I can, wherever that's at. If not, I try to walk somebody through the Oklahoma Real Estate Commission website. It's in Oklahoma, but they understand how to sign up for a license. They know the differences between the courses, and when they are ready to hit enroll, I'm then talking to a team lead that's right for them, whichever office is right for them. And I hope nobody gets upset. I talk to the people and I want to know which office is right for that person. What is the right geographically or whatever is important to them. I love my office. I'm a huge fan of it, but it's not about me and my office. It's about them joining Keller Williams and growing their business. And so it's putting them first is the way I approach it. So it depends on the person and the situation. That's in-state. Out of state, I got a guy in Qatar. We're working on his 2-year transition plan. I introduced him to the team lead in Pensacola, Florida. He's going to be hitting there in about 3 months. He's taking his online courses right now. He wants to represent himself buying his own house. He's active duty, and I love it. So I've already introduced him to the team lead because I wanted to find out what Florida licensing course, I don't know, is the right one. And luckily that local office is sponsored with the company, and they're teaching something online out of their own class, and they have good deals with it. So I let him talk to the team lead as he's getting ready to sign up. In that situation, it depends on the person and the situation.
Just real quick, you don't know in the room, yesterday we scheduled a monthly, we're going to have a career night and a career lunch every month. So you'll be able to add that to the repertoire of asking to it. We just got it in schedule yesterday. It should come out next week and our deal starts. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's
So
awesome.
I know they didn't know.
I try to know.
Tell them what you just said so they
Here monthly, they're gonna have a career night and career lunch in the Keller Williams Green Meadows office. I try to know Keller Williams so much that I do not need a career night. And if I bring somebody to career night, I hope there's nothing they learn in that career night that's different from what I told them. And that's the way I approach this aspect of it. Meaning I need to be an expert in my profession. And if you invited me here to speak about career night, your profession, you say, no, Danny knows exactly what he's talking about. He can speak any aspect of Keller Williams in their career night. And so that's how I approach it, which I'm sure you do in your realtor business also. But this is your retirement plan. And it's really about showing other people the opportunities involved in Keller Williams. I mean, I love it when I get thank yous of, Danny, this changed my life. This allowed me to make my mortgage payment while my husband was sick for the last 3 months. That makes my heart swell, and I love it. It makes me feel so good. And that's selfish because it makes me feel really good. That answers your why.
Let me, before we get off of career night though, I'm gonna, because I was on the growth committee last year. One thing that we did that I think was very beneficial, we got the ALC to agree to spend, I think it was $120 a month to Facebook boost our career nights. And then we started tracking that. So what we did was we opened it up for an on-call. Okay, so we would have agents come in and they would sign in, and in that order, if somebody came in, we would ask them why. We had a little signage sheet, you know, where did you see this? And if they just wrote Facebook, we would pair them up with the on-call agent, and that was a profit share opportunity for them.
Nice.
So, you know, think about that. And we tracked it. We had about 3 per event on average, people coming in off of those Facebook boosts. So maybe something to bring up to your ALC.
You had some questions. The first question I'm going to read off, is that right? Is how do you make money with profit share? So let me refer you to YouTube. Keller Williams has phenomenally good videos that break down the statistics. And there's a 15, 10, 5, 2, I mean, there's a 7-level deep explanation of the profit share tree model. But the very first basic step is you have to bring in an agent into Keller Williams. You have to be a sponsor. They have to go to a Keller Williams office, and it needs to be a profitable office. When they are in production, prior to them capping, then you're paid profit share based upon that profitable office. So that's the broad general guidelines of it. But the very first step is you have to recruit an agent. If you don't recruit an agent, you can't make any money off the profit share. So Keller Williams rewards you for growing Keller Williams. It's a great model. And it takes a lot of time. I'm gonna tell you, if you were just to do in my phone, I've got 40 people I'm trying to help to get started now in different phases. 3 of them will get their license. Because for a variety of reasons, it's not for some people, and they experience to learn about it. DJ speak at the career fair, we may speak to 100 people and 1 person may get their license. But man, I've enjoyed helping that 99 and explore the option of find out if this is right for their lives.
The coolest one at this last career fair, he came up to us in a wheelchair.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I looked at him and I was caught off guard. And he said, well, what if I wanted to do real estate? I'm like, my answer was, well, you can, because you can do anything, right? But then he goes, well, how? And I was like, And so we got to talking, and he wanted to be the expert in SAH, especially adaptive housing. And I go, that is brilliant. He goes, so I could have you're telling me I could have a buyer specialist. I could be the rainmaker in my sphere. And I could be the expert in especially adaptive housing. I said, absolutely. So guess what happened? He met with Nathan last week.
That's awesome.
And so he gave him some things to think about, and he's kind of stewing it over, and we'll follow back up with him. But that was a really cool story that came out. Can I break this down real quick? Because Marilyn asked this. And Danny kind of gave the 30,000 feet, you know, how do you make money in profit share? But Marilyn, you asked this, so I want to make sure it's broken down even a little bit more. So Marilyn, if you bring me in to Keller Williams, okay, and I sell a house, I pay my 30% cap to the market center. Okay? So the Green Meadows, let's say. Green Meadows then pays their bills, okay? And correct me if I'm wrong on this. They pay their bills, and then they have profit left over, hopefully, right? So out of that profit, they give around 52% to the owners. It depends on how much profit there is, and probably in this YouTube video breaks that down, but let's say 52%, and then 48% to the agents, okay? And out of that, there's a calculation, and you'll get a sheet. When you start getting profit share, you'll get a sheet that shows you that whole calculation. Smoke comes out of my ears when I look at it, but at the end of that, there's an amount, and that will come back to you, okay? So I sell a house, I pay company dollar to the market center. The market center pays their bills. They have profit left over. From that profit, they split it between the owners and the agent, and that's how the profit share comes back to you. Okay?
I've got a question on mine. It has names, like there's 3 number 1s on that top portion, and then there's a number 1 with 3 number 2s.
Oh, great.
names that I have no idea who they are. I've only got one recruit, and she's not on here anywhere.
You might be looking just at the wrong spot.
There's the reports, and then the.
Has your recruit signed up yet?
Huh?
Has your recruit signed on with your MCA yet? Yeah. So make sure it's Maryland Hancock if you're looking at.
Yeah, I went into my profile.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Anyway, that's the thing we can do after the class probably, but ultimately, people under you does recruit somebody somehow. You don't know them sometimes.
Because I was looking at the wrong.
She wasn't looking at her own.
No, but
Okay.
it was under my profile.
Yeah.
And go to reports, and then go to
Gotta scroll down.
reports, and then the 7 level, and then that's what came up.
She, you know how you can look at anybody's, you get it, or she got it somebody else.
Right. We got your questions out there. We'll answer them here in a second.
If it's okay, we have two questions from is it Shawnee, one of the other offices. It says, what percentage of the agents that try to recruit you are you employing in the KW?
Yeah, it is. And my answer right now is none. I'm working on my first one right now. So
What was the question? What, how so?
I'll say it again. It says, what percentage of it?
Right.
It says, what percentage of agents that try to recruit you are you pulling into KW?
Oh, okay.
So in full disclosure, the two companies that I've talked to or that have tried to recruit me are EXP. Is everyone familiar with EXP? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So EXP is recruiting everyone, and that's kind of a spinoff of a lot of Keller Williams agents. And so I didn't try to recruit them at that time because it's kind of like hitting your head on the wall. And then the other company that tried to recruit me is the agent that I'm recruiting right now. So that's my answer.
Zero. Right? None of the people have tried to. It seems like everybody thinks you're going to lose 30% agents a year. Everybody thinks the grass is greener and they're going to bounce back and forth. I think existing agents can take years to bring in line. I think TJ spoke about it. What I am trying to do, where I'm focusing for me, is it's going to be mainly new agents because I'm trying to help my sphere, which is my veteran community, transition out of government service into to be an entrepreneur in real estate for those who are interested. And that's where I spend my time and focus. Do I speak to other agents? Absolutely, because I want to be an expert of all the models and what's available. And I want to be a speak to it. This is just part of me wanting to learn. I mean, your phone.
And I think that's the big thing on that is if somebody tries to recruit you, listen intently and understand. Understand what their company has to offer, what they don't have to offer. And I do that. But like I said before, I'm also very prideful about who I recruit. And I want a solid agent. I don't want to bring somebody in that my market center now has to deal with. And it's going to cause more pain in the market center. So
Absolutely.
If I could recruit Christy Hawkins up to my market center, I would. You can't keep
My
crossing.
next question was, are you purposeful in those people? So are you looking for the entrepreneurs, or are you just gonna take whoever, you know?
How do you know when somebody's going to be successful in real estate?
You know?
Unless they're in real
Actually,
estate.
so what are you talking about then?
If they're in, so I would say if they're not in real estate, I think that's a valid statement. But if they are in real estate and I'm doing a transaction with them, I know who I like to work with. I know what the standards are within Keller Williams. Now there are some that may not be there, but they can be, there's potential, right? If it's just some forms things, well, I know that we're going to put them with a coach and that's going to get straightened out. But if I do a cross sale and I see a lack of integrity, that person's not on my radar. They're not on my radar.
Or even any recruiter. If somebody has a lack of integrity or they don't really have a servant's heart, I'm not interested. I want to be surrounded by people who are professionals and I want to be around. And that's how I want to spend my life.
And ultimately, I mean, they're representing Keller Williams if you recruit them, but they don't, your name is attached to them.
Oh, absolutely. I want friends and I want people I want to be around and I want to spend time talking to. And those are the people I spend my time with. And it's the same thing, right? It's how I approach it. I'm not, that's how I approach it. I surround myself by people I want to be surrounded by surrounded by. And I'm hoping it's a win. I'm trying, let me answer this other question from the text, please. To receive market share, does your recruit have to be in your office? No. And I believe there's a lot of questions on this. YouTube does a great job of explaining it, but the Keller Williams model is paid out through, as long as you're in Keller Williams, and the market center that person's in, then that's where the profit share is determined. So they do not have to be in your market center.
That's when they got one in Hollywood.
That's-
Start producing. I can only imagine they might profit share with it.
Yeah, and why is that important? That's a great point. Why is that important? Because the caps on the coast are higher. So they're paying in more company dollar. And if you can find one overseas, and that's a different term. It's not profit share. There's a different term for it. But most of the overseas markets, they don't have a cap. So you're getting profit share all year, every year. Yeah. So if you can find somebody in Paris, Bon, whatever French is. Très bon. Let's do that.
So part of that,
Proceed to the route. Proceed to the route.
somebody's driving, somebody's mapping doing their math.
Mark, did you have a question?
So what would help me, and I'm sure the rest of us, and I assume that probably either one or both of you guys probably have some sort of a business plan, goals, or whatever with doing the profit, sharing and recruiting and so forth. Do you all have anything like that you've actually written up, or you've got to where each day or each week, so much a month, contacts and different ways and so forth that you've done this, or ideas that you've got where it's structured and, okay, here's basically how we've done this, any kind of business plan at all?
Can I give a non-traditional answer?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
And this is why I say it. And so, yes, my goal is three people a year, 3 recruits a year.
Okay.
So I do have a goal.
Okay.
But I'm just going to say top of mind. I'm going to say top of mind. I'm going to say top of mind. I'm going to say top of mind. I work it into my conversations. Okay. I don't call people necessarily. Now I will follow up with people I have in my pipeline from time to time. And I try to do that, every other week. I don't want to bombard them. But as far as new business, it's just top of mind when I'm having conversations with people. And here's the Keller Williams value, and here's what profit share is about. Do you like to earn residual income? Do you like to leave a leg? So what is my why? So my business goal, what is my why? And I wrote this down before I came here. Number 1 is to leave a legacy. I have 2 beautiful daughters. All right, one, I'm about 14 minutes from finding out what college she gets into, and it may be New York University, and then I'm gonna have to bump up my game from college. But leave a legacy. So everyone in here knows that if I were to get hit by a truck when I walk out of here, my wife and family get my profit share as long as that tree is alive. You guys know that, right? That's very important. Okay, so I'm taking care of my family. Help build a life for my friends. So you see this tree up here, all these people are my friends, and I love real estate. I absolutely love what I do, and I want them all to do it, and I want them all to love it. Okay, so I tell them, hey, come do this. It's fun. It's not hard. It's challenging. It's not hard, but it's fun. So come do this and build a life. Passive income to supplement my passive income. I talked about it already. I have passive income. I want to supplement that. And at least in my sphere, people that are in the military that are going to earn a retirement, they get that. They understand that, hey, I want a retirement on top of my retirement. How many retirements can I get? It's awesome. Money dollars per hour. Okay. And I want Danny to talk about his listing example here in a second, but the dollar per hour over time with profit share, I spend 30 minutes talking to a recruit, get them to a team lead, and they sign up. And I earn $1,800 a year over 5 years. That's $9,000 for a 30-minute conversation. Okay, how many people make that on a listing, dollar per hour? Anybody? Because if you do, I want to find your business model, because you don't. So that's a conversation I have with people when I describe profit share.
Move the screen if
Okay.
you want to.
Oh, no.
Well, and I just wasn't
Yeah.
curious, I was curious if we had like some sort of business model that kind of help us with, different things and structure with.
It's in like a percentage, like in other words, if I contact this many, I'll get this many recruits.
No,
If we have anything like
you're
that.
doing
Well,
people.
even just part of, not just even that, but just, kind of making, I didn't know if any of our videos had.
So there, within Keller Williams, it already has a business model. If you want to look at it, it's the Millionaire Next Door, or at least the Millionaire Red Book. I believe he breaks down profit share in there and the funnel of what it looks like. I think you can take most of real estate and break down and use that as your operation guide and be very successful in your business model if you want to adapt it to it.
And Mark, another suggestion, there's a profit share mastermind on Facebook. And I can't tell you, you need to belong to that group because Aaron Kaufman's on there, and Aaron Kaufman is Keller Williams profit share guy. And there is great conversations on there. And if you get on there and say, hey, does anyone have a profit share model? He'll tell you to hit on the tabs, and there's all kinds of, I would be surprised if there's not a profit share model and how you split up your business as far as doing profit share on there. So profit share, Keller Williams profit share mastermind, just join the group. And there's a lot of good stuff on there.
These are great questions. This is absolutely awesome. That money question, you have to be with Keller Williams 3 years to be vested. I think that's important, just talking about being vested for the income, like the Keller Williams 401k. How does your family get it? If something were to happen to me today, how do my kids get it? And are you an expert on that? Is it set up in your will? Is it set up with Keller Williams' office? So for those of you who are vested, is it set up correctly? For example, Keller Williams will pay that to one person. Let's say you have 3 kids. How do you get it equally to them? You need to talk to your MCA and say, how do you set up a trust so that your profit share pays into a trust or something like that, right? So you need to be an expert in it for yourself and for the people you're bringing in and helping along. And then time is probably the biggest thing of growing your tree. It just takes time. It really does. You're doing people's lives, and it's a huge change. And on average, I understand if you're looking at the YouTube videos, they say it's about $1,800 a year per first line person is what you should expect to receive in profit share. And so I didn't go back and answer that very first question. I digressed a little bit. Yeah.
$1,800 a year for someone in your
First line is and what that
they're capping?
is if they're capping. That's
Okay.
right. So that's roughly, and I'm gonna give you that. Let me give you that as I've looked at statistics, I've read it, I've seen it somewhere before. That's the number that sticks in my head. Maybe it's 2,000, but that's supposed to be the average, is what, if that helps out at all. Your second question we had earlier was out of state, and how do you bring somebody in from out of state? I do this a lot, and I talk to team leads a lot. So I can tell you, I can share my technique. So you go up to the white pages, you look up the market center you're interested in, you call and you text the team lead who's responsible for recruiting, you speak to the team lead, you make sure they're an expert in what they're doing and they have the right culture for recruiting and you like who they are. And if not, you speak to the next market center that's closest to them and you find the right market center for your person. The answer was profitable. Maybe. Team leads and the culture in an office to me is what Keller brings. It makes Keller Williams so valuable. And I believe if you get in a market center that focuses on who's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for numbers, and that's the only thing you hear from them, well, then you're looking at a number culture. Well, that's the same as any other business in real estate.
Wait, what do you do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Who's the best seller? Who generates? Who's selling 22
In
million?
their office, they're talking
Right.
about their
So like just culture difference. I'm looking for the culture of service and caring, the Keller Williams culture. And if you bought in, and I think that's the most valuable things Keller Williams brings compared to the other companies, it's got the right culture. And I want to bring somebody in the correct culture. And over time, they're going to be profitable. So I have a market center that I've worked with who's not been profitable in a year and a half. And I'm bringing agents into that market center and pouring into it and helping them all the time. It's a stand-up office, and it's the right culture, and it's going to be profitable. The people are very successful over time. Keller Williams market centers don't fail. If they set back at all, regional leadership pours into it and they fix it. It's just regional directors can't continue progressing if their market centers are failing. So my technique is find the right culture with the team lead and speak to the people, make sure the person I'm helping in is going to the right office that's a fit for them and their needs. And to do that, you actually need to know what their needs are.
Yeah.
What is their why, right? I mean, when you understand that person, then you find the right office. And then my technique is when they say, yeah, I'm like, hey, look, I'm going to call and I'm going to open this door for you. And we're going to get you to Keller Williams if you tell me you're ready to go. And they say, yes. So I speak to the team lead. And when I'm confident in that team lead, then I send them a written communication by text or email with the person I'm introducing them to. And then I make sure they actually have the conversation. And then I follow up with that person like I'm to closing. I want my friend to be successful, and I want to make sure they're getting expert care. I want to make sure they're getting expert care and support, and they're learning the right culture. That's my technique.
Now, let me piggyback one very important thing, because it's not all rainbows and unicorns, because I sent a recruit to a team lead, followed up, even had it on text, and lost that team lead somewhere in the training. So you can lose recruits by not staying constantly engaged with them.
Okay, so yeah, I just am messaging my recruit to see if she's heard from her team lead who I spoke to 2 days ago and had this conversation with, and she hasn't, but he did warn me that he was going to a reunion out this weekend. I was hoping he'd call before, but their specific real estate school is getting breakfast and lunch every single day paid for by
Companies.
a company, yeah. And so she is getting information twice a day about how wonderful other companies are. So I really want to stay at the top of her mind, but I feel like at this point, I mean, I don't know.
So here's
I
my.
feel like he's a great, like, sounds like over 1,000 agents in their office, 7 different locations in San Antonio, hugely successful. He sounded wonderful, like a great guy, great fit. But I just wanted to know, like, should I just follow up with him again and find out where he's at in the?
I would maybe give them one more chance, but I'll tell you what, responsiveness is huge with team leads. I mean, that just like they tell us, if a client calls you, you don't call them back within 5 minutes.
I lost somebody in my downline already, and I've really been doing this about a year. I've already lost somebody in my downline because this person was dual employed. He called the team lead. He couldn't get on the team lead's calendar for 3 days. This is in Pennsylvania, in his Keller Williams office. He tried to speak to the broker. He couldn't get on the schedule for 2 days. There was nobody, as a new agent, there was nobody that would talk to him. What in the world's going on? So the office got so big, they lost the culture of actually being able to deal with the agents, and there was nobody. So I lost somebody, and they went to another office, because you know why? Because the other people are recruiting. This guy's well educated, a couple master's degrees, an airline pilot, gonna have lots of. I mean, he's successful. He's gonna be successful. The other broker is willing to talk to him.
So I find a team lead that's responsive.
Responsive.
Yeah.
If somebody's not responsive to you trying to grow their business and go to Keller Williams, you made that's
You made a lot of golden promises 2 days ago.
it's your judgment.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn through experience, and you're going to learn by failing, as I have.
Yeah, all
I
right, thank
fell a lot.
And you guys are lucky here with Vicky. Danny and I both love Vicky to death
Absolutely.
because she's responsive. Both of us have called her for different things, and we get responses within seconds. She is phenomenal, and Carrie too. So Carrie and I had a couple of chats, and she's very good. So you guys have some great leadership here at Green Meadows.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have 2 more questions. Do you recruit potential people who can only work part-time? And I'm going to say absolutely yes. There's some Keller Williams offices that want full-time agents only, and you can actually see their advertisement. They say want full-time agents. To me, what I'm looking for is almost everybody I speak to, they have a goal of doing real estate full-time, but they're trying to find the right time to start. And I believe that if you go into real estate, the reason why we have an 87% attrition rate of realtors every 3 years is because you go into it thinking it's HGTV, and it's not that simple. And then next thing you know, you don't have an income coming in. And so what is the transition plan for that person that's right for their life? And if somebody has the goal of doing it full-time, but they're working through the transition, then I'm trying to help them come up with the right transition plan for their life, because it's for their success. And that's what I like about Keller Williams, it supports that. And so that's how I approach it.
So to clarify that, Danny, if somebody's never going to be full-time, and they tell you that up front, you wouldn't recruit them, correct?
That's not at all. For me, if somebody says, here's my success, I want to do this part-time, absolutely. Let me help you, show you the value of Keller Williams, and I'm helping them out. If they're part-time and they tell me they're going to do two sales a year, whatever their goals are, I am going to help somebody if they ask for help, because I enjoy helping people.
And I think
that's my own personal, that's how I do it.
And I think I would, but I have a very honest conversation with them, especially with some of my military that think they can do it part-time. And here's the conversation I have with them. Your client is making the biggest investment of their life, okay? And they have questions that are very important to them. And if you're at 30,000 feet for 8 hours with headsets on controlling aircraft, you're not going to be able to get back to them for 10, 12 hours. So I'm not saying you can't do it, but when you do it, promise me you're going to figure out a way to take care of these clients who it's their biggest investment in their life. So I don't turn them away, but I make them realize that they need to figure out a way, if they're going to do it part-time, to look like a full-time agent to whoever. And I know Keller Williams, I think we're starting to turn the corner, at least up at our market center. On before it was part-time agents were not interested to, yeah, we need to figure out a way to help their businesses work. So I'm a little more comfortable with it. But I definitely have that very honest conversation with them because it's about the consumer. I mean, that's what we're all here for. And if you lose sight of that, in my opinion, you're in the wrong business because it's the people buying the house and it's a huge investment for them. So.
TJ brings up a great point. If you're doing it very part-time and you're not an expert and a professional at what you do, you're not going to represent the consumer well, and you're not going to be able to do it even part-time.
And you're not going to represent.
And you're not, but what I ran into, and I answered that, what I ran into is most of the time I'm dealing with people who are working a transition plan and they need to learn the Keller Williams models and training, and they're not really ready to give up that full-time income with a hard break. And so when I answered you, yes, TJ brings up a great point, and I believe once people get into the training cycle and start doing it, they're gonna go, this is really cool. And I'm having a huge impact on people's lives, and I really enjoy it. And they're gonna naturally have to make a decision of when do you go full-time? And so that's my belief in it, and TJ answered it a lot better than I did, like usual.
And I'll tell you this too, so I may or may not have sat down for an hour and 45 minutes with Kivo's broker, like I mentioned before. That's who they're targeting. They're targeting the part-time agent. They have a transaction coordinator that handles all of the paperwork. My personal opinion on that is that can even get confusing for the buyer. It can get confusing for the agent on the other side if your systems and models aren't in place. So to me, that's not an attractive model, but that is who I was specifically told. Kivo is targeting the part-time agent that'll sell about 6 houses a year.
We have another question.
Right.
There's another question that says, what is the most important quality you're looking for in a recruit?
It's a good question. Well, I think the big thing is discipline and desire, 2 Ds. So, taking the test, that's tough, right? We're all kind of far removed from that, but they have to take the test and get past it. And I tell them it's 90 hours and you have to study. And then once you get into the business, you have to be self-disciplined. So I would say, self-discipline and desire to do it is the biggest thing for me.
Well, first of all, I don't discriminate against anybody in any way when I'm looking for a recruit, and I don't believe anybody else does at all. So if somebody says I'm interested and they're willing to listen to me, I'm going to talk to you. I mean, I do not.
You don't qualify.
So when you deal with people, you can tell when you're dealing with a professional as a licensed realtor. You can just tell by how do they respond to you. I love when realtors call me asking questions. I love having a relationship with it. You can tell when they get out of a car, or if you've ever been in leadership, like that person's got it. But in real estate, I don't know if there's a magic button of knowing who's going to be successful. It's just hard work and being honest and having integrity and being a professional. So if somebody's telling me they're interested and they want to work hard, that's fantastic.
And let me qualify what I said earlier is to have an honest conversation with them too. When I said self-discipline and the desire, well, how do you know if they have the desire? Well, you have to tell them what the life of a real estate agent is like. One, it's expensive, right? And I even break down the commission and what I pay to, what I pay to the broker, what I pay to Uncle Sam, what I pay to all of my licensing, to my training, to my signs, to my cards. You got it. You guys know. So I explained that to them. I said, that's a gut check for them. I say, hey, there's some long hours. You have someone come in from out of town, an out of town client. Your life isn't your own for 3 or 4 days because they've paid good money to be here to pay for the most important investment of their life. So this is the life of a real estate agent, and I lay that out for them. That's kind of the gut check. So I'm not really discriminating, but I'm making sure that they understand, like Danny said, this isn't HGTV and they don't buy a house in 30 minutes. There's a little difference there.
So some things I've done from the people I've helped, my friends who are getting started, is I've made sure they understand and to go to talk to a CPA and start an S Corp or balance out between S Corp and LLC. So I actually try to talk to them about business And establish, so I encourage you guys to decide, think for yourself and how you introduce that to the people and continue to support their lives. There was a question, and I'd like to ask each of you guys, would you rather list a house or help somebody buy it and make $10,000 in commission? Or would you rather have that person as a recruit?
Both.
So
That's a great answer.
I am doing a recruit. I have a meeting tomorrow with one of my buyers.
So I encourage you to study it enough that you know that answer. And I'm going to give you a current example. I have a person that might be underwater on their house if I list it for them. So I've offered up the opportunity to help them walk through the process of getting their license and join Keller Williams and list their house for themselves. Could I list it for them and make that money? Absolutely. Would I love to see them keep more money in their family's pocket and learn how to do it in real business? Absolutely. But it's whatever's best for them, and they have to make that decision. But if you look at my downline, I've given up multiple sale opportunities because I've shown people how to get their license so they can represent themselves, buying and sell their own house.
Smart.
Maybe.
That's a totally different mindset.
That is.
No, that's smart.
Well, but it's not for everybody. And it really isn't. And that includes out of state. Do you have friends that are moving around out of state, PCSing in the military? Well, why don't you teach them how to get their own license and represent themselves rather than hiring a realtor? They're doing all the work themselves. They already know the schools, they already know neighborhoods. If it's, TJ said earlier, it's got to be on your mind. Do you believe in it? And if you do and you understand it, then it's just going to be natural to come out as a conversation. If you're doing it, trying to recruit and make money, I believe it's just like real estate. If people think you're trying to make money and you're doing it for financial reasons, they can tell, and I don't believe you're going to be successful long term. But if you're really trying to impact people's lives, and that's really where your heart is, I believe that the win-win will come out with Keller Williams, and over time you'll be extremely successful, and so will they, and so will Keller Williams.
Two other real quick top of mind stories. I got into this business because my wife and I were out house hunting. That's a different story. But as an agent, we still we were out house hunting, and we went into a new build. And guess who was in there? Builder's rep, right? So I started having a conversation with this young guy, and he goes, yeah, I'm thinking of getting my license. Really? So he ended up not because of financial reasons, but realize open houses and new builds with community reps are a great opportunity to have those conversations. As a matter of fact, a lender that I recommend actually just came to one of my open houses. He had no desire to buy that house. He wasn't even in the market for a house. He was out there looking for real estate agents to partner with, right? And where are real estate agents? They're at open houses. So you find I'll throw it out there, a RE/MAX agent out there, and you go to their open house and you have a conversation with them. They may be at a point in their career where they're not real happy where they're at, okay? You may just run into that one agent that's already in production that's just, for whatever reason, not real happy. I'll talk about Jennifer Hodgins in our office. She was at a company and she was reaching capacity and she wanted to build a team, but the company she was at didn't have systems and models for a team. So one of our teams happened to stumble upon this and said, hey, let's come over to Keller Williams, meet with Nathan, and we'll talk about how you can build a team at Keller Williams. And guess what? She's been there 1 year. She's on ALC already, and her team is just crushing it. I mean, they've reached goals that they never thought they could. So, look for those agents out there that may be at that part in their career. I haven't practiced what I preached yet, but this is just from having conversations.
Well, I want to add one thing at the end. One thing that makes this easier to do, some of you have heard me speak, heard this. At the end of every conversation you have, we always say, well, do you know anybody that's interested in buying some real estate or investing, right? Add one more sentence. Do you know anybody that's interested in her career? And so if you'll add that one sentence to the end of every, I think it'll make a difference, all of us, especially.
Let me add on to that. So that's great. I had a coffee with my insurance guy the other day from Thrive. He's awesome, Chad Enders. And at the end, he said, what can I do for your business? Well, typically when people are with him, they're already buying a house. So it didn't make any sense for me to say, well, if anyone's buying a house into my way. So what did I say? If you know anyone interested in a real estate career, this is a different angle, please have them come talk to me because I'd love to talk to them about Keller Williams. So Exactly.
That's good stuff. And it is just one extra sentence, but it is another one extra thought until it's a habit. And so I mean, you need the discipline until it becomes the habit. But you've heard it, Kim, you heard it
Yeah, well,
before.
we said that, like, I think it was a few Mondays ago. We said, why don't we just incorporate that into that exact sentence
Just
into
awesome.
our.
Makes all kinds of sense. Do you know anybody that's been unemployed or
Yeah.
looking for work?
Did I have any other questions before we finish up? If you do, text me.
All right, that was awesome.
I know, thank you guys.
Trying to just think, I mean, ultimately, the thing you said there, Danny, we're running two businesses. That's a thought that I don't think we're having.
Well, 30% of the agents are.
Yeah, that's weird.
And by the way, and there's reasons why the 70%, when you talk to them, the older agents, they don't grow Keller Williams, is because some agents believe that they don't want to grow their competition in their area.
Yeah.
And you're never going to, that's up to them.
I feel like it was a hush secret that I just discovered like 2 weeks ago. It was never discussed in the recruiting process for me. It was never discussed in the Keller Williams material with Ignite. It was never, I have never heard the word profit share until my sponsor added me to the profit share Facebook page. I'm like, profit share, what's that? So in the last 2 weeks is the only, that's the only time I've heard about
Most
it.
people don't understand it
I
well
feel like
enough to
it's
speak
like-
about
When
it.
did you get recruited?
Huh?
When did you get recruited?
I signed on in November, October.
It's in day one Ignite talks about it.
Okay, so
Hang on, everyone, one more time.
caveat, I was out a few days of Ignite.
So that's when it's touched on, but it was something that.
Sorry, John, I didn't mean to say, but I was a few
You missed one or
absent,
two.
yeah, that's probably what it was, but it just
It's
felt
all
like,
Wednesday, Kelly, that's when you.
it just feels like a lot of people don't talk about it as much as.
Well, that's true.
Because
it should be.
you speak about things you're comfortable with.
Mhm.
And if you're a knowledgeable expert about it, you're comfortable speaking about it. If you focus on something, it's going to grow, right? But most people don't speak about it because they really can't speak about any type of confidence. They don't understand the Keller Williams models. That's why people don't talk about it. And that's my opinion.
How long has it been around? Forever?
Oh, census.
That was the idea.
That's one of the first things Keller Williams, when they did Keller Williams, the first LC, they thought, what can we do to make our company, and people want to stay here, we want to grow,
Yeah.
we want to do it for our business, and they came up with this idea, this mastermind thing, and that's where it started, when Gary Keller started. And then it just grown from there.
I probably heard it, and it just didn't touch.
Here's the thing, here's the thought. I know Susanna, when we first came, we started seeing profit share coming in. And one of those first years, it was an average, it was 10,000 some odd dollars of profit share. And I figured it up, 10,000 is $833 a month. And so I thought, that's pretty good. Then I added up, so if I had $1 million and I got 1% interest in a year, I'd have $10,000. So I told Susanna one morning, we're getting ready, I said, I'd like a little more respect because you're standing here talking to someone that's equivalent to me. And so, but think about that, if you're drawing interest on $1 million, it's 10,000, 1%, you can't get much interest, but 1% is $10,000. That is $833 a month, and that is equivalent to having $1 million in the bank that you're just drawing 1% interest on. So that's real money. So let's double it, triple it, and it's really, really money. So anyway, but it has got to be a priority, and that's what I'm hearing from these guys today. It's got to be a priority. As high as I need to make a sale today or make my 10 calls. But while you're making the 10 calls, that opportunity is there 10 times. And so 20 times if you go along.
And that's the purpose of the growth committee, and y'all want to be on it with me, I'm headed, I would love to have help with you, but the purpose of it is to spread it out and to make you feel comfortable with what you're saying, how you can approach other people, clients you're working with or your friends. So some of the words and things I did today is so excellent. Thank you for that, you guys. We really, really appreciate it. Also, all those people being, what's the highest? Is it 500,000 a year that people, Jimmy, have you heard? No. Well, there's like others, but what's the highest a year? Some are a million. What's
Well,
your name?
the McKissick's 750 between the team. What's that?
They went 2.1 million.
Yeah.
last year.
A profit share. They didn't sell real estate. They didn't
They
do
did.
anything.
But
It's,
they-
I'm talking just to get that 2 million.
2.1 million.
And people think, oh, and she's been in it 20 years, I got it before she is. What the bird's that doing for me? I mean, really, they're like, what am I doing?
We're
But,
talking about, number one in Oklahoma was Nevius, Dennis Nevius, what was his?
121.
121,000 in profit share
you know,
last
I'm
year.
pretty tired of
Dennis
that.
Nevius, and
Everything
that-
right on.
But here, Cammy, you're sitting there in Dennis's chair, only you're 30 years away from where he started. But 30 years ago, 40 probably, I started about the same time Dennis did. 40 years ago, Dennis was at another company. And joined Keller Williams along about when it first started.
Right.
And he's been there, whatever that period is, 20 some years. But that's 120,000, 10,000 a month, profit share. And that's where you sit. You're at the beginning of that train.
And what
Every one of you.
And what I was gonna say is, don't feel like, oh, well, it's too late for me to get in on that profit share. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I
That's
mean,
what
how
I'm
many
gonna
people?
say,
have
Christy
you-
Hawkins, 25 years, you got some profit share, but by God, this is day one.
That's right, starting all over.
You know, there's no, you can't, you don't have to go back and start over, you start today.
It
But that's
doesn't
all-
matter where you're at, where you be 4 years from now.
Right.
You're still gonna be, you're gonna be here 4 years from now, so might as well do it.
Right. So that's what we're trying to encourage everybody.
And my daughter just got into NYU, so. Yes.
That's all.
I'm gonna go recruit.
That's right.
Talk about
Sure, you
motivation.
got time to sit around.
Woo!
That is
Yeah.
exciting. What is her,
Hotel management.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
So I'm gonna take all my profit share checks, go to her hotels and stay for
That's
cheap,
right.
wherever she is. So
I'm saying, that'll pay off, should be the closet.
that's right.
Oh, that's
That's Daddy's
exciting.
plan, so.
That's
Yes.
Well,
I gotta go call her.
Yeah, go get her.
Man, you had another question.
To get profit share, do you have to be earning income? Is it based upon?
No.
They have
Nothing to do
to,
with
they
it.
have to buy.
Your people in your office have to be earning.
But you don't
income.
have to earn a certain amount to,
No.
My sister has been out of, she was real estate when I did, and she has some recruits. But she moved to Wisconsin, does something completely different. And she's like, so-and-so's not getting, you know, getting any profit share. She gets profit share.
okay.
We have people who
So you
retire.
have to be an active agent, right?
No.
No.
No?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Here.
I'm sorry.
So you asked the question, do you have to,
Vested every 3 years.
Right.
you asked the question, do you have to be an active agent? So get with your MCA, and so you need to make sure in your retirement plans, you pass it down to your kids, that they understand that you have to pay the $25, I believe it's $25 or $35 Keller Williams annual fee in order for you to receive profit share after you retire and stop selling real estate, or your kids do.
That's only when you're vested.
Don't know, you're vested after 3 years.
Yeah, only when you're vested.
But when you're
That's
invested,
all
though, right, you have to
But,
pay.
but to receive profit share over time, you have to pay and be part of Keller Williams every single year.
Okay.
And so there's MCAs that'll tell you, well, sometimes kids every year, right, January 1st, they're calling saying, hey, I need to pay that $25 so that they receive that extra, I'm gonna make up a number, $3,000 a year profit share or $3,000 a month. So no, you do not have to be actively as an agent, but you do have to be under the KWRI, which is an annual fee. And so does your downline if something were to happen to you as part of your retirement plan. And so I encourage each of you to go speak and look at that beneficiary form and make sure it's set up for what's right, best for you and your family. But then that helps you explain to other people also.
I pulled my form out the other day and it's not filled out right. There's supposed to be some witnesses on there that aren't on there, so I'm addressing that with the
Yes,
MCA.
it needs to be done. So please, you are responsible, I know you know this, I'm not, you are responsible for taking care of yourself and your family. And this is part of your retirement plan, just like any other retirement plan. Does that make sense?
Do you have to be making as much money as your recruit? Or-
So, ma'am, so that's a great question, and I can say it later too and break it down into detail, the statistics of how it pays out. My mind goes fuzzy doing math in front of people. So what I recommend, and there's some very, very good YouTube videos sponsored by Keller Williams that shows specifically the percentages and how profit share is paid. So big picture, you grow a tree down, as they produce and profitable, that profit share pays back up. And it's by level. But there's some very good videos of it. And if I tried to do that in front of you or draw it out, you would crack up. And so I won't even try to break it down to the detail. But no, you don't have to be profitable at all. You don't have to work in a profit center. It's up to the profits, the market center they're in, if they're in your downline.
Because if their market center doesn't make a profit, there's no money to pay.
That's why, so we make sure it's a profit.
Yeah.
Ma'am, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's, whether you're selling or not, if the office is profitable and the people that you've recruited are contribute to that number, you're gonna have residual income from that.
Thanks for that.
And so it's hard to fathom, but it's true. And if we have people working in other companies, this that get Kellogg's profit share, because it's not here, that's thank you.
I just didn't know if you want to close this down.
No, I know.
Get it done. We can do.
Can I be your ear for 5 minutes?
Absolutely.
Something
Let's
that
figure
may
out,
or
do you want to close this down with
Yeah.
the shot?
Yeah, let me tell them.
I want to make sure they don't have any more questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna shut her down. We're done. You can still text us some questions. Danny's willing to hang out just a little bit. If you text me at 204-5927. I'll be glad to pass them on to him, but we're gonna shut it off. Thanks for joining us.